What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Appreciate everybody watching, tuning in. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you want to have any special guest on here, you recommend anybody, please let me know in the comments below. I got Brian Moncey here. Look forward to hearing all the marketing tactics that he has. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Awesome, man. Well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I tell a lot of people I'm probably one of the most boring people that you could meet, because if you're not talking to me about marketing or you're not talking to me about my kids, I don't have anything interesting to say.
What does your wife think about that?
My wife, she's glad because I hang out with the kids, and so she can sometimes not have to do it. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that's good, man. But sorry to interrupt you there. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, so Black Raven's my company, and I sometimes feel uncomfortable wearing my own T-shirt because I feel like it's like when you wear a band's T-shirt to the concert. But we're in marketing, so branding matters. But yeah, Black Raven, we're a audience first digital marketing company. And so our biggest focus is we build audience first roadmaps for our clients. A lot of businesses, no matter what the business, whether it's a, established 100-year-old B2B company or it's an upstart D2C company, the thing that sometimes they skip over is that they're doing their service on behalf of their audience, who they're trying to reach, their clients, et cetera. And so our whole focus as a business is to kind of break through that and get through the ideas of like tactics and get to the point of like, you have business purposes, you want to make money, you want to build a business. There are people out there that you want to connect with, focus on those two things, and we're going to help you in the marketing. We're going to help you build communication channels to them.
So really show people who they're trying to target.
Yes.
I never really knew what a perfect customer was for my junk removal company or even my junk removal coaching platform, to where it took me time to figure out, hey, who am I actually trying to target here? And once I found that group of people, right, then my profit went up. Then I know how to post and everything like that. So go back more into your story, I guess, on like, have you always been a marketer? Did you own other businesses?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have, again, it's a boring story and a boring startup, but I worked for a nonprofit for 10 years and I worked in creative. So I was the guy making the stuff. Like that was what I did. And every single, week I was creating content. So I got very skilled at making stuff, and that focus of it. And that's really, I mean, the word audience has always been in my vernacular because I was making stuff on behalf of people that were going to watch it, that were going to consume it, that were going to interact with it. So in doing all that work, I spent a decade doing that and really honed a lot of like skills. And one of the skills was the skill to like know how to stay up late, wake up early working on something, because deadlines are real. But you get that speed. And if you don't have that speed, you really, I mean, even in business, if you don't have the speed to really, stick to it and stay up late to finish the thing, you're never going to get your business off the ground. You're never going to get to that success point you want to get to. It just won't happen. So you've got to be able to do that. So I learned that early, make in creative, and then found that, like the movie Taken, I had a very particular skill set that was very dangerous to businesses like yours. So I started, I jumped out and worked at a technology company that wanted to launch a digital marketing practice. And so I was a little too young to do it. And, I learned a lot on the on the job, but it was really great because then it really started forming. It's like, okay, so now we're making this stuff. Now you're not just working for one internal client, but now you're working for a lot of external clients. So I learned really what the ins and outs of working with clients were and how we could build something, important on a regular basis for many people. And that's when I really got the love of, being a really strong supporter of people's visions and really building into people's visions. And that's kind of where I learned that like I can find a lot of value putting that out there. And also because we're in this world where digital marketing just keeps becoming more and more important, it was a growing industry, and so it's a great place to do it. And then I mean, I could, if you had a bourbon in a couple hours, I could probably tell you the whole story of what drove me to jump out on my own and build a business. But the reality is that I wanted to shape the way that we address clients, and I wanted to shape the way we built the business in a way that you just can't do when you're working for somebody else.
What makes your marketing company different than other marketing companies? I've hired a lot of different marketers. I've talked to a lot of them, and your approach seems a lot more strategic
Mhm.
compared to like just an
Yeah.
average Joe
Yeah.
who owns a marketing company.
Well, first and foremost, like we do a process. If anybody hasn't ever looked into the EOS process, small businesses can't completely do it, but it's the entrepreneurial operating system. And it's, I mean, if you hear anything on this podcast of a book to check out, read the book, get a grip, and you'll learn about rolling into a business practices and operational practices that matter. And one of those is to develop your differentiators. So I always have these on the top of my head, but the three things that we really say are our differentiators is number one, we're strategic. So you're right, like what you capitalized on. It's like we're looking at the strategy, not just looking at the implementation. And that focus is really, it is different. And it's not different in the way people talk, it's in the way they work on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. Like a marketing company, if they're not still looking at your strategy, they're getting, really honed in on a keyword problem. They may be totally driving your business in the wrong direction, right? So we're strategic. Another one of those is that we're instructive. So it's really important to us that we're teaching our clients all along the way. And I have the gift for gab, but that's part of the vision of the business is that we're always teaching people even before, even before they ever, maybe give us $1, we're teaching people about what they're doing because that builds into the third one. And it's that we're relational. And so like for us, it's very much about build a relationship so that success will follow, and for me, I pursue that in my personal life. I pursue that in my business life and my business and all my team pursues that, which is build relationships. Now, those don't sound like differentiators until you talk about what the world of marketing often looks like. And I think that's kind of what you were saying, because like being strategic versus being very tactical, and we do the tactics. You can't have a strategy without tactics. So, but only focusing on getting the thing done, that's just tactical, right? We're instructive. So many marketing companies hold the information back. They basically hold what you do in handcuffs, and so it gets people into these digital traps.
They're probably not even thinking about the
No.
things that you're, it more seems like a partnership with like you're invested into their companies and their time and, their content and everything like that. You just don't see that with a lot of marketing companies. So I
No.
think that's really cool.
No, because they honestly don't. The last ones, they don't care about relationships. They really don't. And I've talked to a lot of people in marketing, and it's not that they're antagonistic towards building good relationships. It's that they're apathetic to building good relationships because they have their eye on the dollars. And so some companies, they're growing, there are companies in town, and I don't throw other companies under the bus, but there's companies here that their revenue is $35 million a year in revenue, and they're doing that at 25% margin. So it's really, that's in marketing, that's a fantastic way to do it, right? And yet the problem is that they do it by churning through, constantly
Getting more
trying to
clients.
get more. That's the way. And again, that mentality is great for those businesses, but it's not good for the businesses they serve.
What would you say a company like that, their churn rate is?
Well, they usually lock people into a 12-month plan, so that preserves it. But if you break the 12-month plan, you don't pay them, you get sued, and they have lawsuits.
I know, I know what you're talking about.
You probably know who I'm talking about, but let's
Yeah.
not say their name.
Yeah.
But long story short, it's like their churn rate. I mean, I've talked to former clients of theirs. I've inherited a lot of former clients of theirs because they have plenty of former clients. But it's interesting, and I think this principle really applies to a lot of like more aggressive, direct to consumer marketing, is if you have to get 10 people on the phone to get one to convert, and you don't care that the other 90%, nine people hate you, or, like, oh, we've got a conversion rate of 1% and it's great. It's like, then you have 99 people who really hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't care that the 99 hate you, the longevity of your business is not going to be there because you left brand completely behind. So it's like, maybe it is a 1% conversion rate and it works for you. Don't make the 99% hate you. Like really focus on them and really do a good job with them. And the people who do leave you, pretend they're going to come back. And again, it's that relational focus. And you just be a better person. You might not make as much money, but you'll just be a better person for it. But your business will be better and it'll be longer and lasting.
So would you say that patience and also nurture are two good words for kind of what your goal is with these clients?
100%. Yeah, patience. And like being patient with somebody like you would because you care about sticking with the relationship, and then growing them and nurturing them because you know that they have future potential, because everyone changes, and they're going to change usually for the better if you can actually build into it.
I think getting leads is actually really easy, and a lot of people like can't wrap their head around that. But it's what you do with the
Yeah.
leads that's going to determine how much money you're going to make, how successful your business is going to be.
Right.
You know, I looked at the amount of sales calls that we took, and I didn't even know how many leads we got, right? And I looked at the real numbers that were right in front of me, and when I realized that our close rate was 6%, which really it should have been much higher. It should have like I had a team that was doing an average of 6% close rate. Mine was 12%. And once
Mhm.
I started to like unravel everything, I realized I lost like, a few $100,000 in just a few short months. So it's easy to get leads, but it's what you do with the leads is going to determine if you're going to profit or not, especially when running paid traffic.
Right, right. Yeah, and I mean, that difference, that 6% difference is if you learning that there was a 6% difference is the first thing, which is like learning who you're reaching, but then really focusing on like what do you do different? Why do you have that passion? And then there's another audience, which is your team. Like how do you grow them up and train them to understand why they're not making that difference? Because what they'll do to get that, they'll never get the 6% back because the owners are always going to be the best at selling themselves. That's just the bottom line. But what is going to be that difference to get to 6% is going to be that they're going to take care of the 94%, right? And that's where it matters. It matters to care about that other group of people because when you get on the phone, I could probably guarantee I've never been one of your leads. I can almost guarantee that if I got on the phone with you and I wasn't going to convert, you would never treat me that way, right?
Right.
But that is what a lot of people do. They get into this really fast. Like a lot of funnel marketing makes you just focus on getting from 1 to 2%, 10 to 20%. It doesn't really focus on the fact that people you're leaving behind don't like you, and that's really important. It's important to the longevity of a brand.
Absolutely, man. So you keep saying the word content, right? Or creatives,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Is that specifically social media or copywriting or what? Where exactly are you talking about there?
To me, I think we're doing it right now. To me, the best way to think about it is multi-channel. So like what you're doing, we're sitting in a room right now, we're talking into a microphone, it's going to sound great. I could listen to this on Spotify, I can listen to it other places, right? Baseline. And then we're recording it for video and it'll be, on YouTube, et cetera, right? But like everything you make it for multi-channel. So for us, we really look at sort of this kind of like pyramid down approach where it's like, what's the key piece of content? We're going to make a podcast as a great key piece of content. Well, then we're taking that key piece of content and then that's going to end up we're making the video clips. And the ones we're doing right now really just sound with text and they're performing really well for the client. It's not that they're getting millions and millions of people. It's that he's getting dozens of the people he wants. And so he's getting invited to go speak at something. He's getting in the right spot. And it's really just that like focus on build content and then make that content into a lot of stuff. So it becomes the social media videos, but it also becomes a video that you send through an email channel. It becomes SEO content by, transcribing the podcast, and then now it's keyword rich, all those things. So it's thinking of like content as a pyramid. And I think, Gary Vee probably had the best presentation on this is like how to turn one podcast into 150
Right.
pieces of content. And like that mentality is the way we do it. So everything we do, we build it out. And so like we made a video for a client. And one of the things I even start before that was like, I'm going to shoot a ton of footage and we're going to shoot a lot of extra stuff and we're going to do a ton of B-roll for the second, third, fifth, 10th video we're going to make. I'm building you a library. You have one thing you want to make and you're willing to put the budget behind one video. We're going to make it so you have a library and then you're going to come back and get this and then you're going to come back and get this. Well, we've already turned it into like 3 things. And that's something that he was using very strategically for an acquisition. So it's like he needed it for this thing. And I was like, yeah, but I'm going to make it for this thing too, and this thing and this thing.
Right.
And so that's what we do.
So that makes complete sense. And once you said that, the first person I thought of was, Gary Vaynerchuk. And I saw a video where he was like, here's how you come out with 150 pieces of content a day. So here's my question to you, right? A lot of people that are going to see this podcast or the clips going multi-channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these people probably want to do those things, but they can't wrap their head around actually doing it because it's a massive commitment for us to show up here, on a Thursday, right? Or every single Thursday for me and do 2 podcasts and then post that full version online and edit it and then put it on Instagram and Facebook and this and that, right? So like how can somebody it really takes a lot of money. So, can somebody do this on their own, and how much, like, do you think it's going to take a lot of time to do those things, or what would you say to those people? Go in and hire somebody, or
Mhm.
actually do it themselves?
Well, I got two pieces of advice. The first piece of advice is hire Black Raven to do it. And then the second piece of advice is start on your own. No, but no, I
Yeah.
really, that second piece is really what it
Mhm.
is find your audience, find your way of doing things, and find your voice. The best thing to compare it to is like everything you just said, if you replaced it with working out, everybody knows it already. You're like, it's somebody, people are going to hear this. Like, I want to get buff. I want the muscles. I want the abs. I want the this. I want the that. Right. And you'd go, yeah, like you just got to go to the gym a lot. So like nobody has that problem of like, we already understand that your calories and your time in the gym are going to make the difference in your body. When it comes to marketing, marketing has sold us on this quick fix mentality. But what you have to do in a business, let's look at businesses at three different stages. You just kind of said, what if somebody's completely starting out, like from scratch? Okay. That's kind of way I would
Yeah.
interpret what you said.
Mhm.
Then let's go to that middle phase where they are in a growing mode, meaning that they've found what they're doing. Now they're really trying to make it profitable or make it very profitable. And then that third stage would be for an established business, somebody who really knows what they're doing already. In all three of those scenarios, the thing that changed was not the entrepreneur, it was the amount of people around them, right? So what did you do when you grew that funnel up? It's like, well, so now I go from a one-person company to a five-person company to a 500-person company. Well, guess what? Everybody else has something they have to do all the time, right? So do you want to invest a ton of money into your marketing content creation? You do someday, but you still have to start with the audience first. And so what you need to do is that entrepreneur, no matter which stage of that game you're in, you've got to say, I got to start going to the marketing gym every day. And so I got to start putting in the reps, putting in the time, and focusing on it and actually putting time in so that I can learn what works for the business. And in previous conversations, one of the things you said to me too was like, I know what to do now. You had to learn what to do, right? But you've been in the gym. Now you got the abs, right? You got the marketing abs now. So you can say that, right? If it would be dumb to assume that working with a marketing company third party that they would ever be able to make abs for you, right? But we often assume that a marketing company is going to be our golden ticket. And I never see it play out like that. I just never do. The best marketing in the world that you see is internal marketing teams, or it's individuals making really good content, or somebody finds a partnership to make their marketing and they lead that partnership. But in all those scenarios, there's still like, you've got to know how to do it in the first place. And so if you're going, how do I start? In all three of those situations, I still say you start and then you go from there.
So I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads across YouTube, Google, mainly Google, and
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all these different platforms. And I recommend that to my clients, right? Go spend money on ads because you
Mm-hmm.
can sit at your house and start getting leads right away.
Mm-hmm.
And with specifically junk removal companies, what I see happen is they go and spend money on, maybe Google, and they're going to spend $1,000 a month, for example, and none of them end up lasting for the most part. Or the people who are already spending money on ads, their budget stays at $3,000 a month
Yeah.
or $5,000 a month, right? And it never grows. When in my eyes, I'm like, hey, if it was truly working, why wouldn't you be spending more and more money and
Yes.
more money?
Right.
What would be your approach? And maybe why are these people like they're not seeing the results? Is it because it's too competitive? It costs too much money?
Yeah.
Well, what would be your approach there?
Well, number one, they probably don't know who they're trying to reach. Audience first. I mean, that's it. So you really don't know who you're trying to reach. So if you're not channel agnostic in the first place, then you're already setting yourself up for failure because you've got to you got to spend your dollars where they're going to mean the most money, right? And so let's assume that there's a dollar cost that you do have a budget, right? And everybody should have a budget, but some people are really just like, let's spend the money and see what happens. And there's some experimenting time. But in that situation where you say somebody's going to spend $1,000 and they're going to fail out of the marketplace, it's like you may never cross that threshold. So let's go back a full stage before you ever swipe your card with Zuckerberg or you ever swipe it with Google, right? Like before you ever get there, let's focus on something. And these are two things that I think are really important to focus on. Google has all of their cost per mil, cost per click, all that junk, right? Cost per lead, etc. A business shouldn't care about that yet at all. It shouldn't even matter to you. The real number, and I like this because it's also about like literally like keeps you alive, is CPR. So it's cost per result. So people focusing on cost per result as a business, it's a completely agnostic number. So you get to that point where you say cost per result, like when I put in $1, when do I get $1 back? When I put in $1, when do I get $10 back, right? What's my cost per result? Not my cost per lead, because again, leads, you said, I get 100 leads, I close 12 of them, right?
Right.
So your math's different. And I close 12 of them. How many of those are really going to be paying clients? How much are they going to pay me, et cetera, right?
So is that a fancy term for cost to acquire a customer?
Yeah. And I think cost to acquire a customer to me is, I don't like that term. And I also don't like return on ad spend either. ROAS, I think, is how people say it. I read it. So
That's how I say it,
yeah,
ROAS.
sure. The reason why I don't like either of those is results are the thing. It's like, again, like if you want to end up in a Lamborghini, your results is, wow, how many customers does it take for me to get to the Lamborghini, right? What's that cost? You know what I mean? But most businesses are not going to go to the thing at the end of the thing. But there really is, like, as a business, what type of business are you trying to run? What are those results? And then what do you have to pay to get those results? That's what should matter to you. Because I think cost to acquire a customer, one of the things that misses is in the life cycle of a customer, between client acquisition and their total lifetime value is so much distance, right? And so just acquiring a customer, it's like, well, every customer we ever get is always worth this. It's like, no, that's not even true. And sometimes you get to a point where acquiring more customers is worse for you because there's a scalable issue with it. So you want to start cycling out bad customers into good customers. So again, cost for client acquisition it's just still an earlier number. And I pull people back to cost per result, right? And then getting to that, total lifetime value of a client, right? So if you understand that the lifetime value of your client is $1,000, okay, then you go, okay, $1,000, that's what it's worth to my business. And I usually will take profit out of it, and just focus on revenue, just to make the numbers a little easier. But a smart person would run their revenue or run their profit. But, talking about profit margin, it's like, well, if you can give easy profit margin numbers to it, run those instead. But focus on $1,000 lifetime value of a client, okay? So if you go, they're $1,000 lifetime value of a client, and how much money would I pay to get that client? Well, I know I got margins, I know I got all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, if I gave you $1 to get me $1,000 client, I would go and find everybody I know that could loan me money. I'd go down to the bank.
I'd spend $1 million.
No, I would spend more than $1 million.
Yeah.
If every time I gave you $1, you gave me 1,000. I would literally find every dollar possible, every one, and I would get them, right? So it's like, so I know that a 1 to 1,000 is unbelievable cost per result, right? Okay, what about if I spent $900 to get $1,000 lifetime value?
I'd still spend a lot of money.
Yeah, you would, because you get $100 off the top, right? What about $1,000 for a total lifetime value? You don't spend it. Now, we talked, and we've had a previous conversation where we talked about, would I spend $100 to get a client? Yes, because their total lifetime value might be greater, right? So if they're $100 worth of a sale and it's $100 to do it, or 1.2, you're spending $120 to get a $100 first sale. Well, you do it if you got a total lifetime value that's worth it. So we understand the total lifetime value, and then we focus on a cost per result. And getting that, then you can ask that question of anything you do in marketing. It's not just paid ads, it's SEO. Hey, I want to spend, let's just say I'm going to spend $4,000 a month on SEO. It's like a lot of money, right? It's like, well, what's your cost per result? It's like if that $4,000 is going to net you $40,000, of course you spend it, right? If you have the type of website where you literally couldn't acquire enough traffic, why are you spending money on SEO? Stupid, right? Like, you have to be able to have the right offers and the right deals. So understanding that total lifetime value and then that cost per result, like those two things right there answer all of your ad questions. And then that mentality pushes you to spend, if it's $3,000 is working, can you get 6? Can you get 20,000? Can you get 100,000? Like, if you know how to work $3,000, platforms, you can't, at some point on Google, you literally can't spend more money. That's kind of the problem. But assuming that you can spend more and you know how to spend it, you should spend it every time.
So what you said sounds amazing and sexy, and people are going to hear that and be like, I need to do that. But how are they going to do it and actually track those numbers? Is there a software that you use, or how can somebody track the numbers that you were basically just saying?
Yes. So 3 stages of business, right? So at a mature business stage, you're doing deal anatomy, right? That's what you're going backwards and doing. So if you're a really mature business, you've got a team, you know how to make money. The trick there will be like, okay, what are our clients? And a lot of times what I'll challenge a client with is like, if you could keep 100%, or you could keep 100% of the amount of clients you had, but you would replace 90% of them with your top 10%, I want to know who that top 10% is, right? So it's like, so let's just say like, who's your favorite client? 1 out of 10. So you're going to fire 9 of them and replace each of them with a clone of the first client, right? So that's a mature business. So mature business is going to do deal anatomy. Hopefully they're using a good CRM system. And so they're running these numbers, and whether that's really a lead funnel system that gives you good data, or it's a proper, client relationship management system that's involved in a lot of ways. We use HubSpot. That's the one we prefer. And we run all of our sales through HubSpot. So if you ask me a question about stuff, I can look it up in HubSpot, right? I can query HubSpot. I can run reports on a weekly basis. I can do all that stuff. So using a CRM system there. Medium business might have the same information, but a lot of times in the medium business, they're in the growth stage. They can't replace, they don't have the top 10 client. Sometimes they're still like, we have 100% of our clients we want to fire and get a new 10, 100% of clients, right? So you can't do deal anatomy there. So what I recommend is really honestly building peers in your, building up good peer relationships within your industry, finding out the people that you like that are doing well, buy them coffee and tell them they're doing well, and they'll feel good about it. And then say like, so what works? And they'll tell you all the time, right? Relationship before success, right? And then for early stage people, that's all they can do is look at companies that they admire and look that up. And so find out from them. It's like, you want to get into junk removal, they work with you, right? Because it's like, I want to get into junk removal. I don't know anything about junk removal except for I have junk in my house. It's like, I've seen big trucks, I've seen big signs, I've seen branding, I've seen advertising, I've seen all this stuff. I don't know what they're doing. And so then I would focus there. So I would get information from people that are good resources. And a lot of times that's somewhere, if you were going to spend dollars before you spend them on Google, I would spend them with, a coach who's going to teach you how to do it. But that would be at each stage of the business, there's going to be a version. Yes, right. Junk Academy, right. But that's the deal, right? And so that applies to everything. It applies to every type of business. If you're going to go open a lemonade stand, like drive down the street and find the kid doing it and say like, why are you outside right now? Like, what is that? And like really ask, because the internet's going to suck at giving you information. It will be so bad. SEO, which I sell, has ruined the internet. You cannot find anything you want to find because the things you find are the people who are really good at SEO selling you something.
So SEO, let's get into that, right? SEO means search engine optimization, how you rank organically. Is basically the way that I know it.
That's the exact right definition.
SEO did extremely well for my business. It did better than paid ads, and we probably got better clients in general. Better people called. Those were higher paying clients. The only problem was it took time, right? It took at least a year for me to I was getting results before that, but noticeable results where I was like, man, I'm crushing it. This is finally worth it. Was over a year. Yeah. So what can people expect? I know there's different variables of what company they're hiring. Are they doing it themselves? How many backlinks? Do they have a blog? All these things. What can people expect? Because a lot of marketers will say, hey, you need to do it for 6 months and then it should be working.
Yeah, I would say more. And the reason why I'd say more is you need to be conservatively developing your business marketing strategy around commitment. And so like whether you're working with me or you're literally going to learn how to do it yourself and get out there and start doing your own SEO, which is real. It's just so much time, it's not worth it. But like if you're going to start competing on it, you have to be committed to a long term. So we tell our clients 18 months. But one of our things with our business, I always say we communicate strategy, we don't communicate results. That's not what I sell, right? But I'm getting to the point now where I can be like, yeah, but here's the deal though. If you do this for 18 months, you're going to pay. It's going to pay off for you. And I don't overpromise things. I really don't. But but the really dedicated people who have been working for it for 18 months, they're always winning. And the reason why is because every day, every week, every month, someone strategically is coming back to the challenge of your SEO, because guess what Google does all the time? And we're talking about Google because that's the most important thing to deal with. Google changes. Google just, as of this air date, last week, I read an article where they had rolled out a major core update to how its algorithm works. And guess what it did? It said, we don't like artificial intelligence based content, not because a computer wrote it, but because it's not good. Right. And so Google can see, if you think about the way that like a chat GPT or a large language model would work, they're going out to the internet and they're finding all these resources and then they're melding them together. And you're just casually going, that sounds right. And that's how people are creating their SEO content. Well, Google's like, if you are that derivative already, you're not going to be my best search result. You couldn't be, because I know there's a better article out there that you took from. So the reality of the situation is, how do you overcome the fact that Google just made a change that really dinged a ton of people's really strong strategy? You keep doing strategy all the time. And so that continual practice, like I said, getting to the gym every morning, getting to do what you need to do. If you focus on that with SEO, SEO will pay off for you. And I haven't talked to anybody who pursued an SEO plan for 18 months that couldn't say that it paid for itself.
Right.
And so I'm with being so hesitant to ever go like the results. You just pay $1, you're going to get this back. I'm like, yeah, but like SEO, like you can do it. It'll work, but 18 months. Okay. What happens if you start converting in a month? Fantastic. No problems there. That's awesome. What happens though, if you're really foreseeing something between that 6 and 18 month window before you really start to see results? Well, that's why there are faster lead acquisition strategies like paid marketing. So thinking of that full dynamic roadmap is going like, we're going to lay out SEO. We're going to start rolling in paid marketing strategies to start bringing in leads now. And so you're structuring out your development of your business around that roadmap and knowing I need to do paid today because my SEO won't pay off for a few months and I want to be here in a few months. But I will say this too, if we're going to be comparing apples to apples and saying like, how quickly can I get a lead from paid? It's slower but more effective from SEO. There's something even more effective than search engine optimization for lead generation, which is having a good brand and a good company. And that takes even longer, but you will see more results if you've got a good brand and a good company. Because I could probably ask you for a couple different products right now, and you would name brands that you would go buy today, right? They built those brands, and they spent a lot of money building them. And now you don't even have to see the ad to go drive down to Target and buy the thing. So that's the other piece of the puzzle too, is there's these core things that you don't want to skip over to get into SEO when it's like you haven't built out your brand yet. And so like when you're on an organic channel, SEO being one organic channel, social media being another organic channel, they're really valuable leads that take time to acquire. And so people need to remember that and know, I want to be in this game. I'm playing the infinite game here. So I want this brand to be here in 18 months. Do SEO today. Like start today. Don't wait 18 months to start your SEO because it'll still take 18 months and 18 months.
So here's something I see across my industry, right? With Junk Academy, we take junk removals owners on and show them what pieces they're missing and help them scale their companies, right? SEO is one thing that did very well for me. I've hired marketers, two different people for SEO. So I know how they sell it, everything like that. I tell my clients, I say, hey, expect to get results within a year and don't even really focus on the numbers. Just, track where the leads are coming from, that sort of thing. But you really need to give it a year and even more. So this is a long-term game. And I watch people every single day hire somebody for SEO, a qualified person, and they start spending money for 3 or 4 months. And they're like, you know what? I'm done with this. I got to cancel.
Right.
What are your thoughts there to help them, I guess, move things forward?
Don't. No, commit or don't, or get out. It's like if your lead acquisition strategy in the next 2 years is going to include free leads from the internet, you have to start doing SEO today. Okay. If you want to do 3 months worth of SEO, don't do it. Don't even do it. Right. But like if you're going to do 6 months worth of SEO, 6 months will get you far because this is a trickle effect. Like a paid ad today, when you turn off your ads, they're gone tomorrow. SEO, you're putting in this work and it'll continue to give you value. The analogy I usually use with clients is like if you're going to go tan by the pool, and you walk outside at 10 a.m. and you aim your lounge chair perfectly at the sun, right? And then what if you just lay there all day and you never move? It's like, well, the sun's going to move across the sky, might move behind a tree. You're going to get sunburned on one side of your face. Eventually, you don't even have the sun coming on you, right? It's like, no. If you're going to be by the pool, you're going to like, oh, I'm going to move my chair a little bit. Oh, I'm going to move my chair a little bit. Oh, don't tan all day. That's not good for your skin. But you'd move your chair. You'd keep moving as you go. That's where SEO will come in. But if you said the difference between me not getting tan at all and me getting some tan, go out by the pool a little bit. So like that's the equivalent of doing a few months of SEO. It's like you're going to get some tan, but will you get through that escape velocity of cost where your cost is making you money and not just being a sunk cost for you? You got to do it a long enough time. And so I recommend a continual vitamin of SEO on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and really focusing on it.
So for SEO specifically, I spent money on it for well more than a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. It's actually been 3 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I started tracking my numbers really well at some point, and I realized that I was paying $1,000 or $1,500 a month for SEO for somebody to manage it and do everything. And I was in return getting an 8x return on, we'll say, the management fee itself. And then on paid per click on Google itself, I was spending a ton of money, right? And once I started to track those numbers very well, over that past 3 years, I saw my ROAS on the front end go from a 3 to a 2 to a 1 to me spending $1 and getting 75 cents in return.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are going to see that, right? Once they get into paid traffic, they think that they can just spend $1 and get $5 in return because that's what people talk about. That's what a lot of marketers talk about. Can somebody go into Google Ads or anything else and expect to just putting $1 in and getting $2 back? What can they expect? Because for me personally, I had to learn a lot, obviously, but I was getting 75 cents back on the front end of $1 that I would spend, where technically I was losing money on the front end, where I started to think, I got to make this profitable. Otherwise, I cannot spend more money.
Yes. Well, again, fundamental client lifetime value, like understanding that and then understanding what the cost per result is. When you understand those two things, it's just a litmus test for should you or should you not. So when we go to the client lifetime value, that's why, again, ROAS will kick you off because you go, I'm making 75 cents on $1. I'm making 10 cents on $1, right? You're like, well, who cares? That number doesn't matter when you've got a client lifetime value of $100,000. You're like, dude, yeah, I'll lose 75 cents here. So I'm losing a quarter. Or breaking even, and I mean with margin costs, let's say you're losing 50 cents or whatever, right? But that's turning into $100,000 in value. You take that deal every time, right? So that's number one, is you've got to look at all your channels and hold them up to whether or not they're value channels based off of your cost per results, right? So do I do paid or do I do SEO? It's like, I don't need to know an either or. I want to know what each of those channels are going to do. Now, let's go to that 10 to 1. Like, let's just say I can spend $1 and my client lifetime value is $10, right? So I'm going to spend 1, I'm going to get 10, right? So like I said, if you can do that, you're going to borrow every $1 you can spend. You're going to spend every dollar you can to get those $10 returns, right? Well, let's just say that's SEO dollars. That would be amazing. And don't run away with that number and 1 to 10 return. It's not even out of the realm of possibilities, but just take that out of your mind that that's what SEO does. But SEO does a 1 to 10. Paid does a 1 to 5, right? Or a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 1, right? A 1 to 1 if we're doing client lifetime value, we don't want to do that. So let's go 1 to 5, right? So like, do I quit both things, or do I quit paid because SEO is better? No, you do both. You hold each of them up to the standard of value, and then you address it. So, and as you said, it's like 75 cents. If my client lifetime value is greater, I'll keep doing it. I gotta meet my CPR. Like, for this thing to stay alive, I gotta do CPR. I gotta know what that is. And I'll spend money on things if they'll make me money. And I won't spend money on things if they don't make me money. It doesn't matter how many things you do until opportunity cost comes in, management, etc. But other than that, you do it all.
I think the problem is people, they want everything to be extremely easy, and they expect to spend money and just like break a profit immediately. And they expect things to be really easy, where it's just not going to happen like that. And also, people want to get rich tomorrow, which I'm that guy as well. I want to do something today that's going to make me more money tomorrow. when in return they need to focus on the long term, right? And a lot of people, like, if they knew it would take them 10 years to get to 1 million a year or 10 million a year or whatever, would they actually do it? And are they willing to put that time frame
Right.
in?
Yeah. Well, and I work with businesses. Some of the business I work for, their annual revenue is $1 billion. You know, you're like, okay, dude, I want to own $1 billion company. That sounds pretty cool, right? Well, $1 billion in annual revenue is actually means the company could sell for a multiple, right? So the value of the business is extremely high, right? I mean, we're talking about another echelon of money here. A lot of times people are like, I want to make all the money tomorrow. And they go, and I want to be, I want to make $1 million tomorrow. And I mean, like, I quote Justin Timberlake because I think it was Sean Parker in the movie, but like, what's cooler than $1 million is $1 billion, right? So what is $1 billion company doing that $1 million company is not doing? Brand. They're caring about the legacy. And they also care that like they could sell that company for a lot of money. This is a privately held company, but if they're a publicly traded company, like there's value there too, right? And so like when you start thinking in those longer terms, and I mean, Simon Sinek didn't invent it, but he talked about the infinite game of like starting to focus on the object is it's not like football where you're trying to win a game in 4 quarters. The infinite game is the goal of the game is to stay in the game, right? So when you start thinking of like your value ladder as an individual and understanding like a business is an asset, it's not just a cash cow, right? So a business is an asset and it's valuable because the money I make in the business is the money I can sell the business for a multiple. Like when you start thinking like that, you start thinking in 2-year terms. You start thinking of what I'm going to do tomorrow. When all you care about is like a quick hit, get money, it might work, probably won't. Like there's not, otherwise everybody'd be rich and nobody'd be rich. So that's why, right? But like the most successful people you see built something that's extremely valuable, and then they built more things, and then they built more things, right? And that's really where like that slower, and you said the word earlier, patience, that patience of the pursuit is it's gonna make you successful in a way that if you don't find that nugget of gold, you're going to lose, and you're going to probably lose years, and you're probably going to lose a lot of relational value when just building a business the right way is going to be better for you.
I want to jump back onto the patience and nurture words itself, because I meant to say this earlier, but I hired a coach, we'll say. He does $2.5 million a month, and I was trying to learn what he was doing that I wasn't doing so I can end up learning.
Right.
And the process of my business is when we would get leads through the door, I was trying to kick them through that door so fast where they'd end up buying, right? And if they weren't buying, they weren't buyers. And I'm on to the next person, the next person, the next person. What I learned, the biggest takeaway I took from that guy, for me paying him $60,000, was just nurture, where the clients that I'm getting, right? They're all leads.
Mm-hmm.
All these leads that are coming through the funnel or whatever, they're all leads. But how can I nurture all of them? Because a funnel, if you really think of a funnel, like you have to work people down the funnel. And if they're not at the right spot yet, they're not going to buy. You can't expect them to go from the top to the bottom and skip all those steps in between, to where I really learned to be patient and then also nurture those people to where if I have a Facebook group, for example, and I have 5,500 people in that group, instead of trying to close 5,000 people tomorrow, what we do today, what we do tomorrow, it builds up over time to where I know that it's going to be a long-term play, but those people at some time will buy something. And if I tell them what I have to offer today and they don't buy, sounds good, no problem, and then I throw them right back into the funnel exactly where they were and continue to try to work those people down and down and down. So it's patience, and it's also you have to nurture the people in order to get them to buy something.
100%. And that really, in my terminology, that comes down to brand building, which is, again, I hound on it because people, especially in online stuff, they think that they don't have to build a brand. And if you have a Facebook group with 5,500 people and they actually are going to it and looking at it, that's a brand. Like that's a strong brand, right? Because if you're able to get that attention, they're able to know what you are. Well, there's all the offers you're going to make, but then there's just hey, I've been looking at your stuff. You're providing amazing content and I want to know more about what you're doing. I want to learn about your coaching services, right? I want to learn about chunk removal. I want to learn about these things, right? Like I want to know what I need to do next. And they're getting pinged and saying like, hey, do you know about this thing? You should know about it. Hey, do you need this? And like all of those things, like thinking of yourself as a brand versus an offer is such a like quantum leap in business building, because the people that think of themselves as an offer will maybe develop a great product, but they will never have an organization and a brand and an organization as a company to actually scale and grow and sell it. Coaching is a good example, because with coaching, like, as much as you depend on yourself being the product, you're going to be depending on marketers, and you're going to be depending on assistants and virtual assistants and different people that are going to be able, because I guarantee you $2.5 million a month in revenue is not getting made on one person. It's getting made on a lot of services and a lot of team and a lot of people, right? So that idea of building an organization and a brand is mature, and it's why people succeed for real. And then you just see the glitz and the glamour in the front of it. And that's great. That's fine, because that's the brand. Like, you want to build a brand in an organization that can actually support that kind of growth. And it takes patience, and it takes nurturing those people and really doing that. That's brand building.
I think the problem for me in the past, right, which is what I've learned, and even 4 years in entrepreneurship, I'm starting to realize this more, is these empires that you're talking about that are doing $1 billion a year. How long did it take them to actually scale, right? And most people, the statistic out there, most people don't stay in business after 3 years or whatever. 70% of businesses go out of
I
business.
think it might be 90, but
Maybe
yeah,
it's
keep going.
90.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like, it takes so much time to build something big, and a lot of people aren't willing to get into that time, right? And by the time I start a business like a junk removal company, and I own it for 3 years, and then I see this shiny red ball over here, like a marketing company or social media or podcasting or whatever, it's like, I'm on to the next thing. I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah.
To where I wish, and I'm still so young that it doesn't really matter, I would say, but I'm trying to find that empire that I truly want to build, and not, build it to sell, but at a high multiple, something that's going to set me up for life.
Yeah, well, and I mean, again, that's a lot of businesses have to go through the stage of like, am I building something to keep, or am I building something to sell? That's a differentiator and a conversation you need to have with yourself and with your soul, right? Is like, do I want to retire at 40? Or do I want to have, and I think this term often gets used kind of as a pejorative, but have a lifestyle business? There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I get a lot of fulfillment and joy out of just being in marketing. I like doing it. It's fun. I like clients. I like talking to people. Like, I could do this forever. I have no eye on the prize of selling my business at all. And I tell other people that, and they're like, that's their only mentality, is to sell their business. And they've got a 7-year exit. I'm like, no, I've got a 10-year plan. And in the next 10 years, I will still be the CEO. That's what I plan on doing. Right. So there's this mentality of like understanding first, like what type of business. And you stated it well. It's like, I want to do something that's going to set me up for life. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to build $1 billion business like that unless you're going to go into unicorn territory, right? Like, that's the only way that's really going to happen. So you may go, gosh, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage, because I want to walk away with $100 million. Okay, right? Well, like, you'd have to build something that was going to sell for $1 billion, and you'd need to get behind a computer and start coding. That would be the only models we've seen. Yeah, that's where we've seen that. It's not, and there are so many. You talk about the fail to survive ratio of those businesses. It's even worse than regular businesses. Like, they bring the number, they really hit the bell curve on that, because those businesses are failing way more. I mean, so much more, right?
You can tell that tech's starting to become a bigger thing. When I had a private equity company that tried to acquire me, what I realized is, like, here I am getting ready to scale this junk removal company around the nation to turn around and sell it for a 3x multiple, when a tech company could sell it a 16x multiple. So when everybody's on social media, they're talking about real estate and real estate coaching and junk removal and pressure washing and window cleaning and drop shipping and stuff like that. You're starting to see people talk about like SaaS now, starting those, go high level funnels and stuff like that, being able to sell that stuff. So people are getting into that. I could see a lot more people failing.
Well, and to tell you the truth, don't look at the little guys, look at the big guys. If you look at the rate of IPOs, initial public offering, that's sort of an IPO is not necessarily the dream result for every entrepreneur, but for most, it's probably IPOing is probably the best thing you're going to do with your company, right? Those IPO companies, like, I believe it was in 2021, there was over 140. I wish I had the numbers with me. And it's now down to like 10, right? So you're like, holy crap, what happened? It's like the world moved, right? And so just building a giant tech company to scale, people don't like it anymore. So investors that want to like turn money over and stuff are finding it's not a good way to get, big cash. What people are doing is they're going like, you need to look at your P&L, your profit and loss statement, and run it like a successfully profitable business, or it'll never be worth money. So it's getting to the point too, even with tech, that like we don't have many of those big things. Like I believe it's Instacart is trying to do an IPO, and they're like, it's been lessened a lot. Stripe, which is almost the backbone of commerce on the internet, their IPO values, like they're already like under judging where they're going to go for that. Like the truth is that you can't expect this magic money to happen. And so what has worked 20 years ago, 100 years ago was always business building quick. And then there was always panning for gold and doing all those things. And so I think that like getting to the point where you really decide, like, am I going to build a business that I want to live in or one that I'm going to sell? And then going to, okay, let me look at the model out there and who's successful at it. And then let me give them a cup of coffee and get them to tell me what they did, and going through those steps. And again, it's these first principles differences that make the difference between somebody who spends all their time on TikTok getting sold to by other people's funnels and the people who are actually going to make some real money online,
Right.
I mean, you've done a really good job because you did the thing.
Yeah.
You didn't do it because you had an idea. You did it because you did
Right.
the thing.
Yeah, I think the way that I look at, I guess, building a business and either continuing to build it or be able to sell it is you're constantly reinvesting the money that you actually profit back into the business to where you might realistically be making a lot of money, but you're trying to build and build, and
Yeah.
money's a tool, that's all it is, and you got to use that tool in order to multiply. When at times I would rather have that big check, right? So
Yeah.
build, constantly reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. And maybe you're making crazy money, but it doesn't really feel like it. Asset rich, cash poor. When in return, you could go build a business to be able to sell, and then you get that 6, 7, 8, 9 figure check.
But then you just have money again. And in America, when you make that money, like a year from now, I was just looking at cost of living values, and now they're down to 4 to 6% increase, right? So like your dollar is now 96 cents, right? Your dollar's 94 cents. And so like that, I think I think that mentality too of even like, I would love to have the money. Again, you're not getting to the end of the line. Like, what do you really want? Like I know I've heard you talk a lot about, like, you like nice cars, like really nice cars, you like nice watches, you like stuff, right? So it's like, well, dude, if you buy a Lambo and you have a Lamborghini, that's better than the money it cost, right? That's why you bought it. So thinking in the stuff you want, I'm not as materialistic as a lot of people for the things I like. So a lot of people, they love stuff. I'm just not a stuff guy, right? I was talking about all the gear in this room.
Good for you.
Well, no, it's fine. Like I still have to like buy groceries and stuff too. So, but that's one of those things is like stuff is not my thing. But for me, it's about, I'm trying to buy time, right? So would I want to kill it for 10 years and make $100 million to then not have to do anything for the next 20 or basically the next 50 years, not to have to do anything? Or would I rather build a business that can sustain the next 10 years and then the next 10 years and then the next 10 years? I'm doing that every day because that's what I want. I want to spend time with I have a 7 and a 5-year-old. I want to hang out with them more than I want to make money. And so trading the money, and this is, as much as I could have a whole diatribe about why kids are better than cars, I'm not making that point, actually. I'm saying decide what you want more right now. And so it's like, if you want that car, think about the car, don't think about the cash. Because, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Robert
Kiyosaki, yep.
He doesn't care about cash at all. He actually thinks cash is a terrible investment.
He cares about debt.
Yeah, he wants debt. He thinks cash is a bad investment, right? And so it's so easy to like think like you're playing Monopoly. But it's like, dude, it's way better to own Boardwalk with hotels than it is to have cash, kind of tucked underneath the board and have that extra $500, right? Like, you want to own Boardwalk more, right? I think that is a much more mature and reasonable thing. So like, I want to own a very valuable company. So I'm probably going to incur more debt in my company soon to build it bigger, right? And it's like, well, why are you doing that? Like, Brian, you're going to owe people more money. I'm like, yeah, and then I'm going to have a bigger
Money's
company.
a tool.
Yes, right. And so I think to me that getting past that also helps you, if we go all the way back, getting past that also helps you to buy SEO and buy, and buy paid ads and buy coaching and buy these things. Like, it's like, stop thinking about cash, start thinking about, it's, for lack of a better word, stuff.
Think bigger.
Yeah, and think about the things that you really start some real goal setting for yourself. And like, I mean, Tim Ferriss's book, everybody's read it by now, but like, it's lifestyle design. And he wants to work at the time of the writing, he wants to work a month and then not work for 2. And it's like, he probably doesn't even care how much cash he has. He probably doesn't care, and he's probably got lots. And it's amazing because he's a writer, he's an adventurer, and he does what he wants to do. That's lifestyle design. And I think that is really powerful.
I started a media company. We haven't really announced it publicly 4 months ago, and then it turned into something bigger. And I was like, okay, we're really doing this. So the first thing I started doing, it's social media marketing, basically showing people why they need to build their organic presence, because it's done well for me, and people just can't wrap their head around that. I could go build a funnel. I could go build an 8-page website that ranks organically, or I could build both. What do you think that I should do? Because right now I'm like, what do I want to do? I guess I'll just start off with a funnel, and then in the future I'll, build a website. Why should somebody build a website versus a funnel, or a funnel versus a website?
Put your hands together. Just build a website that can be a funnel. I mean, now time-wise, you got to build it out. But I mean, like, technology, the web technology, that when we talk about the difference between a website and a web application, we're really, every day, a website becomes more of a web application. So building a strong foundational website as a platform, you can do anything. So like, hey, should I build a funnel? It's like, just build it on your website. There's a lot of tools out there, and I think, with the ClickFunnels of the world and all that jazz is really cool. But the reality of the situation is, like, the flexibility of like having a website that you can actually build whatever you want on it means, because it's website now and you could build it quickly, I can launch. I mean, if you give me a domain, I can have you a website up with a 1-page website in 25 minutes, and it's live at that domain. And really the thing we're waiting for is the domain to propagate, right? So speed to launch is not the problem anymore. That's not the problem with building a website. So I would say put them together. But more to the point of what you're saying is, should I devote myself to content, or should I devote myself to lead gen? I would say that if you don't have content, your lead gen's it's not going to be robust enough to get to where you need to go. So I would say, like, probably like start with that building of stuff. Don't end all of your building of stuff. Otherwise, you've got a giant library and nobody's coming, right? So start building key value pieces, including maybe don't build 8 pages of the website, build the 1 page of the website. Then start funneling people and actually have value pieces to match it. Because for the people that fall out the side of the funnel, have them fall right into a piece of content. Have them fall right into another piece of value. Have them fall into this program. And so giving people more stuff, like, I would build some stuff, get the funnels built, and then keep building your stuff the whole time and just never stop.
Why do you think, when I look at a website, for example, right? It just looks like a website. It looks like everything else you've seen. But when I look at a funnel, it's completely different, and it almost looks childish. Maybe the ones that I've had made where you get on the first page and it's just a button, right? It's just an opt-in page, and then you hit them with a VSL, which is big right now, and then a call booking funnel and stuff like that. Why do you think funnels change the game? Which Russell Brunson, he basically says it changed the game for everyone. Right. Why do you think it changed the game for people and helped them make more money?
Well, audience focus. We lost the trappings. Like, brand can also be a trap just as much as it's something that's valuable to your business. And so one of the things that they did was they basically stripped away all the trappings of your pride in the business. And I see this happen all the time with developing websites, is people focus too much on their website being the perfect aspirational version of them instead of the thing that's serving their audience. So when you go, hey, I want to buy a thing, and you walk into the gas station and it's sitting right there at the front of the store, and you don't have to go through the shelves and find it, that's the best thing in the world, right? So what he did was he actually took away a ton of friction in the process. That's really what happened, I think, with the ClickFunnels model. And so taking away the friction and getting people right to where they need to go.
It's like a tunnel.
Yes.
A funnel. Yes. A tunnel, a
exactly.
funnel. It leads them exactly where they want to go.
So what about this mentality, which is, what if everything you did was a funnel? Everything. So everything you did, you knew where it sat in your pipeline, and it always had a call to action. Then you wouldn't be differentiating between this mentality and brand building. You would just say, everything I do, I want it to point to success. Everything I do. So like, like giving a call to action all the time gets you there, right? And when you run an ad saying, hey, you want to buy this pair of sneakers, and then it goes to a thing where you click and you get to buy the sneakers, that's great. When you run an ad that's, is this mentality of like, I want to be independently wealthy, right? Well, there's not like, oh, click this button, you'll be independently wealthy. That's not a thing, right? So you got to take them from that value position that they're at to your value proposition, which is over here, which is, if you buy this service from me, we can get you to becoming a multimillionaire, right? So that distance that it's going to take, that bridge it's going to take to cross from, where their value is and where your fittedness with your value proposition is, to make that leap, make it the shortest right distance, and build everything you're doing as a funnel all the time. And that would be my way of thinking about it, is give people call to action and they can take it.
What advice would you give to the audience that was maybe just starting their company, or maybe they owned it for a couple of years and they feel stuck and they want to build a bigger brand, a better brand, and get more clients? What would you suggest to them? What's your advice?
The first thing I would do is whiteboard. Get out a whiteboard. Hopefully, if you got a team, pull in your team. If you don't, just, I don't know, turn on your phone so you can record it, just so you feel like you're talking to somebody. And in the middle of the whiteboard, write the name of what the target persona is. Like, really write it out. And this is elementary school, right? This is kindergarten marketing, right? But write the name of that person out on the whiteboard. And then next to it, write what you want to sell them. And then start drawing lines between that. That's what I would do. Because if you've, like, at those 3 stages of business, I'm just starting out. Hey, I think junk removal is such a good example, right? I want to make a bunch of money. Okay, well, there's this great way to do it. It's called start a junk removal business. I know the guy who can teach you how to do it, right? It's Junk Academy. But with that difference, so this person's starting out like, I want to make some money. Okay, so I'm going to do junk removal. Okay, what is the persona of a junk removal person? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. Let's find them, right? What are you going to give them? Junk removal. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot. It's not just junk. There's more to it. There's more to the function, right? So you start building out both of those sides of things, and then you just start wiring it together. Okay, I've got this person out there, and it's real estate agents, and they're trying to help people clean up their houses to get them ready for sale, right? I know that persona. Okay. So now I'm trying to get them to get rid of their stuff. So what am I going to do? I'm going to follow those marketing channels. And now you'll build your own roadmap that way, just by touching together who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to sell. So I would whiteboard that, because I've had so many magical moments in front of a whiteboard for my business, because I just literally was like, I usually, like, what I do is I by myself and I turn on music and I just start writing. And you write that name and you write what you're trying to do, and then you start wiring them together. And sometimes you'll find out, hey, this person doesn't need this thing. Crap, I better do something different. Hey, this is not getting us enough. Like, this and this is not getting us enough. Okay, what else could we do? Who else might want it? Would those people really want it? How are we going to connect with them? You start building up from there. But focus on the people, the audience. Focus on what you do as a business, your business purpose, and then start working your way out from there. And you will have, you'll be amazed at the information in your brain that you just don't let yourself get out. Between when you wake up in the morning, when you go to sleep, because you're so busy with stuff. Just spend the time, whiteboard, give yourself an hour on a whiteboard.
Building a strategy and finding clarity is basically what I got out of that. Yeah. I have a buddy who is local to our area, and he does about 35 million a year. And what he told me was, here I am trying to sell everyone for Junk Academy, or I make content, and I get a broad spectrum of people who reach out, whether they're 16 years old or 60 years old, and one person has no money and one person has a lot of money, and then maybe one person's lifetime value is 1,500 and the other person's 70,000. Mm-hmm. What he told me, he's like, in order for me to scale my company, I should think of the best clients possible in my business, what the LTV is of those customers, what is the demographic of that person, how old are they male or female, where do they live, figure out exactly what's similar about those people and target those people. I have a Junk Academy client. He doesn't even have a GMB, and he's doing well over $50,000 a month, where somebody who does have a GMB, who spending money on Google and they're on Nextdoor and they're on all these things. One business might be making 10,000 a month that's doing all those things, and the other guy's making 50,000 a month. The difference is his clients have a lifetime value of 70,000 versus this person, their lifetime value is $200, and the people they find is just one higher. That's it.
Yeah, they're just getting the junk, so to speak, right? I mean, and it's not, people aren't junk, but sometimes they're businesses, right?
Yeah.
So that focus on having a higher, focus on having like really what the dollars and cents of it is, but then also knowing that like if you have a curve where it's like, most of these things are long tail, where the $70,000 clients, there's only so many of them, whereas the $70 clients, there's tons of them. And then you go down your list of like, what's the acquisition and what's the actual service value of those things as a business, finding that sweet spot for yourself, because maybe you're the $17,000 company. Like maybe that's your sweet spot where you're going to see exponential growth. But, as you said, it's like focus on the demographics of those people, focus on the geographics of those people, especially with a business like this, and then focus on the psychographics of the people. What are their pains? What are their gains? What are the things they need to get done? And then focusing your value propositions around that, and getting those things done is going to make such a difference, because you're now going to know. It's like, I love when I make $70,000 instead of $7, right? Okay, great. Well, how many $70,000 are out there? If you look at your geographic territory, I'm assuming with a junk removal business, you only have a limited geographic territory effectively, right? So it's like, so if I can only reach people in the zone, I might only have so many businesses that I can even touch. Okay, well, let's expand our territory, expand the geography, expand the demographic profile, and maybe get some of the cheaper people, or expand what we do as a service, and building out better value propositions for their pains, gains, and jobs.
I love it, man. Well, you have me really fired up right now. I feel like I need to get to work and cut everything I'm doing.
We're making a podcast. Let's go to build a business.
Right. So, but really appreciate you coming on here, man. Spread a lot of value, a lot of things that people don't talk about, especially marketers. So I really like what you're doing. We'll have to have a separate conversation. But for now, where can everybody find you?
Well, blackraven.digital. It's easy. We're on all the socials, all the things. But honestly, I do this because it's relational. Just email me, brian@blkrvn.co. Email me and just go, hey, I want to know more about it. I mean, honestly, just reach out to me directly. And the reason why I do that is because I have not seen relationships not turn over value. And so I just get a hold of me. But we're just Black Raven AFC. That's who we are.
Cool, man. Appreciate you coming on.